Oh, where's Wilma?
Yeah.
He was here a second ago. I'll
Rose
call
was
it.
a second ago, yeah.
I'll call this special council meeting to order, and I'll ask for disclosure of pecuniary interest and nature thereof. Seeing none. Delegations and presentations, none. Consideration of business of which notice was given. Report number 6.1, Director Valentin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Today's meeting is with reference to our 2020 Township of Scugog operating budget. I'd just like to run through some of the what has happened since our draft budget meeting on February 10th. So within this report and in this budget, the operating budget is made up of 4.87%. 4% is for infrastructure, 3% is for roads, 0.5% is for vehicle and equipment, and 0.5% is for building and facilities. The 0.87 is an increase to the operating portion of the tax levy, and that's compared to the consumer price index year over year in December of 2.2. So that's significantly below the CPI. Included in this budget in the 4.87, or really in the 0.87, are 3 new positions, including an accounting analyst, a conversion of a public works operator, and a new parks attendant. Also included in this 0.87 is new and expanded services. So the youth center will be open for the summer months. Temporary crossing guard is included in this 0.87 from February to June as a pilot project on REACH and Simcoe. We're increasing the summer camps and swim lessons. We have new inspection for oil grit separators, as well as the maintenance of it. So the budget direction on February 10th was to eliminate or reduce a few items, which took the overall levy increase from 0.92 to 0.87, which is reflected in this report. Subsequent to the February 10th meeting, we had a public open house, which was live streamed here in council chambers, and that was on February 19th. We had the region of Durham also here presenting their budget. Up to March 3rd, which was right before printing of my report, we had 129 views on the YouTube viewing, and that was 129 views and 72 unique viewers, and they tuned in for an average of 14.34 minutes. We also implemented a Budget at Scugog email address this year and received several questions, and most of those questions are within this report with the answers associated. So any questions that came into that email, the answers were provided to the person who proposed those questions, and we also included them in this report. At the time of the draft budget on February 10th, the region's budget was proposed at that time. Currently now they have approved their budget, and it is 2.42%. The township will actually see a 1.92% change, and that is due to the reassessment. So we've benefited a little bit based on the reassessment throughout the region. So that's basically a summary of the report before you and the budget document. So we are looking for council's endorsement and approval today. Whoops, sorry. And there are 10 recommendations included in this report. Thank you.
And just to reiterate some of the things that you've said, and thank you so much to you and your staff. I know that you've been completely tapped out during this budget process and continue to be with what's happening and the downloading and so forth. So I really want to thank you and your staff and all of staff for cooperating on this line by line. And just to reiterate some of the things that you've said, we did have a special council meeting with the draft budget on February 10th, and some motions were made and are embedded in this budget that we have presented here today. It was posted online. We've had the public meeting. It was live streamed. We had lots of feedback on that, and we had lots of viewers. It seemed to be an excellent way to get the communication out there. Good questions from the public as a result of that. And in addition, I know it's not reflected here, but I know councillors have received a few questions as well by email. They won't be reflected in this, but they were answered. The recommended rate that in this budget is comparable to other in Durham region and less than some. A couple of the ones that have been passed or are on the way to being passed have used a considerable amount of reserves to come at a lower rate, and we chose not to do that. We've been through that exercise and are just trying to build our reserves back up again, and thank you for your strategies presenting that. So as you've said, 4% of this is for infrastructure. That's what we're hearing from, and what staff is hearing from the public is that roads and sidewalks and bridges are major concern in our township, and through this budget process and the recommendations for future budgets, we're going to be tackling those issues. 0.87 of this budget is just to keep the lights on, as our CIO has said, just to keep the lights on, when in fact we're looking at 2.2% of cost of living, and we've managed to come in at 0.87. And we've achieved that through savings and $75,000 savings to offset new positions as well. And so this, to me, this is a great budget. So thank you very much again to you and your staff and to all of staff for their input on the budget process. And now I will open it up to questions. Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the budget? Thank you. I have a motion to approve the recommendations, 1 to 10. 4 has already, sorry, not 4. Number 8 has already been dealt with at the February 10th meeting. Yes, we'll get the motion on the floor first. It's moved by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Kiesebrink. Okay, questions? Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Director Valentin, for all your hard work on this. I know it's that time of year when it's extremely busy down there, so to get some time with you to discuss it, I appreciate that, the time that you spent with me personally to go over some of the things. First question I have is in regards to the recent change in ownership or leasing requirements at the Brock's parking lot, and when we have, the township has stopped with the snow removal at that location, and I was hoping you could point me into the spot on the budget where that reflects going ahead, any savings that the township will see.
Thank you. I'll pass that over to Director
Coleman.
Coleman. Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. The majority of the savings was about $17,000 for the winter maintenance, snow plowing of the parking lot. That work is done on a contracted services basis. Our budget for that line item in last year was $130,000, but we actually spent $158,000, and the year before we spent $150,000. So if we were still doing Brock's parking lot, I would have recommended $150,000 for the budget this year, but then less than $30,000 that we will have from savings by the new parks attendant clearing side or salting parking lots. So it would have been $120,000, but now that we're not doing Brock's, I brought it down to $100,000. So while you don't see the full savings from the budget over budget because we were actually higher than our budget line last year, it's actually $50,000 less than it would be if, is that too many numbers? Is that confusing?
Maybe you could just, sorry, just so my understanding is that we've been over budget this year and in the previous years, so the numbers that are reflected here are of what your estimates are going ahead, and that does not include the Brock's parking lot, but these are still your estimates for what it'll take for the township.
That's correct.
Further
And
questions?
Sorry, there was a couple other minor things, $1,000 for line painting and $2,800 for sweeping, pothole repair, litter removal. So that's just our staff time, or the line painting is contracted, and we intend to use that for other road line painting. And the general maintenance, that'll be used for general maintenance of roads. So we still intend to spend the other $4,000 in savings.
Thank you.
Further questions?
Further question on a different topic. In regards to your report, 2.4 on page 7 of 11, discuss the cost-benefit analysis for the public works operator. I just, hoping you can just maybe clarify for me about halfway down in that first paragraph. It reads, in regards to the 5-month period, the cost for a contractor to perform the work is a minimum of 110 per hour, and then the total cost for a contractor for 6 months. Perhaps you could just explain that just a little bit further, just with the numbers in there and the different times, the 5 months versus the 6 months versus the hourly.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor, that's a typo. It's actually 5 months of the contractor time, not 6 months. I did the calculation based on 5 months. At one time I looked at 6 months and then I changed the both cost to 5 months, but it's a typo in the report. It should read 6.
Okay. So 5-month period.
I'm sorry, it should read 5.
So no 6, just 5 months, correct?
Correct. Both numbers are based on 5 months.
Okay.
Further questions?
Not at this time, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on the budget? Councillor McDougall?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Director Valentin, and all the staff for your hard work into this budget. It is impressive that you're able to bring in a budget that's under CPI and at 0.87%, 0.92% before. I'm very pleased with those numbers. I'm just surprised that we're able to bring in a budget at those numbers and still hire 3 new positions. But perhaps more on that later. I have a question as well with regards to the cost-benefit analysis for the public works operator. There's a comparison that's done, and it talks to the same line. It says, for a comparison, it's assumed that the new operator would perform ditching. The new operator that will be hired, will they be running the grade off? I think best directed to Carol. Through you, Madam Mayor.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. The new person won't be doing 100% of one task. As I mentioned there's several tasks to do: ditching, patching, resurfacing, brushing. So just for an easy cost-benefit analysis, I just assumed one task because it was easier to find a cost for that than to know, okay, they would be 20% of the time here and 30% of the time there, 40%. It would have been a lot more complicated of a comparison. But we will, if we hire this new person, if we can find someone with grade all experience, that would be great.
Further, Councillor McDougall?
Yes. Looking at the numbers for responses on the budget for how many unique views and viewers, it says that we had 72 unique viewers and 129 views. I think we had an email that came to us that had 20 questions generated. Were there any more questions generated, and was that what we expected in terms of views, and is that a good response overall?
Dr.
Thank you,
Valentin?
Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I believe it is very good response from what our IT manager had said. The night of the budget meeting, he was quite pleased with the number of viewers at the time, and then we've had subsequent hits after the budget was done. Any questions that we get were bonus. So the budget email, I think, was positive, that we got some other questions that we were able to respond to from the public. While we were here live stream, we did answer questions as well. So we did have quite a few questions from the audience as well as online, and then subsequent to the meeting, we received some other ones which are in this report.
Okay, very good. Just a further question on that, through you, Madam Mayor. Question 2.3.1, it says, the question I think is, are departments in the township required to submit a line-by-line budget? Is that a summary of the question that was submitted online? I think the question read, sorry for a second. I think the question read, are departments in our township required to submit a line-by-line budget? For example, does a department submit to council their stationary needs, et cetera, et cetera? Is that the question that was answered in that?
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes.
Okay, so just further to that, the answer that's provided here in the summary report says, yes, our budget software requires staff to build a budget on a line-by-line basis. But the actual question that the person had asked is, for example, does a department submit to council? That actual summary is not submitted to council. We get a summary
not
of
the
all
details,
these
correct.
line-by-line items. So the line by line items are rolled up into this budget, but they are
Correct.
not for council to review.
Correct.
Okay. Very good.
Further?
That's all at this time.
Remind everybody, you know, there's a limit of the number of times you supposedly can speak. So if you've got questions, make sure you ask them while you've got the floor. I'm going to be flexible, but I'm sure that there's probably going to be a lot more questions, so make sure that you ask them when you have the opportunity. Any further questions on this budget and the recommendations? Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To Director Valentine, through you, Madam Mayor. I'm just wondering if you could please just, I've got a couple blanks here when I'm looking at, looking ahead at the 2021 budget in regards to staffing. Based on the report on the draft budget and the one you have now, my understanding is that the accounting analyst will cost the township $89,100. And the other two positions, I'm not sure I have the right numbers on them, so if you could just fill them in. In the report, it looks as though the parks position will be $5,000, and the majority of that is due to $9,000 worth of salt that we'd have to buy. Can you fill me in on if that's correct, and what the public works we're looking at for the 2021 budget for salary and benefits?
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. So the parks attendant, I believe in the report from February 10th, identified the costing of the public works operator as well as the parks attendant. So the parks attendant speak to first that the new full-time position next year for 2021 would be approximately $80,000, including benefits. The contract would be an estimated savings of $84,000. So a net savings of, just strictly on those two numbers, a net savings of $4,000. But then we would need to purchase the salt for about $9,000. So the net cost is approximately $5,000 for that position in 2021. So it is a savings this year, but a net cost of about $5,000 next year. Done that twice. The public works operator conversion, I'm just trying to find the numbers here. So it's proposed this year, the net cost would be about $18,600. And I believe, my apologies. Oh, within this budget, this report today, item 2.4 identifies the cost, including benefits, as about $47,930 for next year, for 2021. So that's an increase to the budget of that amount.
Pardon me, through you, Madam Mayor, just so 47,000 and change, 900 for the
Almost 48,000.
48 for the public works operator.
2021, yes.
Okay, and that's the
The conversion.
that's the conversion. So that doesn't include. Sorry, does that include then taking off the seasonal side of things?
No, that's on top of.
On top of that. So what would the total?
Oh, sorry, I'm being corrected.
Through you, Madam Mayor, so the 2020 cost is $18,600. The total cost in 2021 is $48,000, but that includes the $18,000. It's a $29,000 increase in 21.
Okay, thank you. So, Madam Mayor, so that's going to 48,000. That's what we're going to be seeing next year, as far as when we break it down under the salary and benefits for that certain position. That's what we'll be looking at.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you. That's all.
Okay, no further questions? Okay. Just to that, we are already looking at some possible big savings next year. IT, I think, is working on some stuff. Will those estimated cost savings for next year's budget cover the cost of the 2 positions? Or 3 positions?
Well, to you, Madam Mayor, we would hope so. We are doing a photocopier review. We're still looking at our telecommunication line items, so we do believe that we should be able to find significant savings, especially just in those 2 areas, but we will be looking for other areas as well.
Okay, are there any further questions? Councillor Kiesebrink?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think, how much is the position, not the total cost, but what is the actual wage for the parks attendant?
Director Coleman?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the counselor, the total salary, including benefits for the parks attendant, is about $80,000 a year.
No, not the benefit, just the actual wage, like what wage are we proposing for, like what salary would we be proposing for the parks attendant?
It's in the ballpark of $30 an hour. I don't know.
So like,
Yeah, the parks attendant.
like is it a $60,000 salary? And then by the time you add in all the costs, you know, for EI and CPP and benefits and so on, I'm just asking what the, like what would be on the resume, what would be the base or the job position, what would be the base salary that would be offered? That, because it's hard to get your head around the total numbers. I just would like to know what the actual salary, proposed salary amount is for each of the three positions that we're looking at.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the counselor, I don't have the exact salary here, but it's in the ballpark of $60,000 a year.
Did you want to speak?
For the parks or public works?
Yeah.
For both.
For both? And then for the accounting, what would be the main, like just the main salary position before all the other costs are added in?
Director Valentin?
Just if you give me one moment, I did provide that information, just trying to find it. I think it was in my presentation, the updated presentation. Sorry, it's downloading.
Further through you, Madam Mayor, so while we're waiting, so as far as the salt goes, whether we contract the work or we hire someone, we'll still need the salt. So with respect to the parks position, we're talking about a net savings of $4,000, to even taking into account all of the additional costs for salary and benefits and things like that. Is that a correct understanding of the report?
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes.
Okay, and that would be presumably ongoing because the work that we do is on an annual basis.
Yes.
Okay, so with the works position, taking into account that we currently are doing a seasonal contract, which would be ongoing, there is, I think if I understand correctly, the net increase is how much? Could you clarify for me, Director Coleman?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the counselor, the net increase, total annual increase going forward, like it'll be less this year because we're not hiring
For sure,
partway through,
yeah.
but it'll be 48,000 a year.
So 48, but the net gain that we have is, rather than having just a winter contract position, now we will have covered off the winter contract work in addition to increasing the summer work that person can fulfill under the direction of the department head that they work for.
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes, exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Director Valentin?
Thank you. I found my slide on the salary. So the public work operator, the salary would be about $67,000 annually.
Thank you. So $67,000 salary, and the contract just for the winter is how much? You were saying, Director Coleman?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the counselor, the savings in the contract will be about $85,000 a year.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, further questions? No? Okay. Director.
Oh, I
Councillor
wish-
Guido.
That doesn't sound too bad.
Usually I call the directors counselor.
Yeah, that's all right. Okay, so my question is in regards to the $9,000 for the tourism office. I will preface what I'm about to say with the fact, before anyone has any questions, I did vet this through our integrity commissioner, whether I am in any way have a pecuniary interest or any other kind of interest to speak about this, and I do not. So just in case there's any questions, that has been resolved. Now my question. because I did have a conversation with our integrity commissioner, it allowed me to do a little bit of, perfect timing, a little bit of investigation into how the $9,000 was requested. And in June of 2019, I was actually away from that council meeting. But when the director or the Chamber of Commerce was here, as well as the BIA, there was a commitment to the township and to council that we would receive quarterly reporting for what has been accomplished by this position. So the reason why I was asking back in February what that $9,000 was attributed to was because of the commitment that was made in June that we would be advised what has been accomplished. Is it working? Is it successful? And what have they done? I think we can safely assume or say that we all understand the importance of tourism, and it has nothing to do with whether we value tourism or don't value tourism. The conversation is about whether that $9,000 is best spent in that location to keep that office open in months where we can honestly say there's a few months in that period there's not a lot of foot traffic that goes through there. So that being said, that was the reason why I had requested what they've accomplished. We've had many weekends where this employee has been there, so we could see what that $9,000 would get for us. Councillor Ross and I had the opportunity to meet with the, and I'll probably get his title incorrect, but Mr. Jansen from the Chamber, Vice President of the Chamber, because we wanted to have the conversation not on necessarily out on the council floor, but we wanted to have a conversation with Mr. Jansen to give our opinions and concerns. Because to be quite honest, with the 157-page document that we all received, in that 157 pages provided to us by Kenna, or Ms. Kozak, we couldn't decipher what that employee was doing. It was great stats about tourism, but it wasn't answering the question that we had asked. And the YouTube video from the June 24th council meeting has Councillor Watton's motion that it would be deferred to the 2020 budget on the basis that we receive the report of what has been accomplished. In fact, it was also mentioned that the quarterly reporting would be coming through the tourism committee as well. In addition to that, there was also an ask for rent subsidy for that building. And Director Valentin, that rent subsidy is not in our budget today, correct?
Through you, Madam Mayor, no, it is not.
Okay, so the only thing that's in there is the $9,000.
Yes.
Wonderful. This morning or this afternoon, JP forwarded to us the list of accomplishments, which thank you for that list, because without seeing that list, be it small, we have no way of knowing where the $9,000 actually went to. My only ask is that if this is going to be a continued partnership, that we are not having to ask for a list of accomplishments, that we can stand in front of our constituents and say, this is where your $9,000 is going. We shouldn't have to chase a report. It should be provided to us, given the fact that that was the agreement that was made back in June. So I had a different mindset about where I was potentially going to go with this. However, given that we received what we did ask for, thank you, Tony, for that. But I would like to ask that before the 2021 budget is considered, that end of the deal is met with the quarterly reporting so that we can understand where that dollar value is going.
Fair enough. Thank you. Councillor Watton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and just further to Councillor Guido's comments. This tourism person, correct me if I'm wrong, it's for the fall and winter months, correct?
That's correct.
So that in reality, there should be no reason that we cannot get a report, say, the first few weeks of September, summarizing what what they have done from the past year. Would that be reasonable to assume that, so that it would then be in time for our budget planning? So I would just like to qualify that perhaps we should expect that report in September, if that's what Councillor Guido was kind of referring to.
When does this person get hired? November. Yeah, so we won't get one in September. Sorry, go ahead.
Madam Mayor. For this year, they were hired in November, but the funding request is from September through to May. Because
so
the,
even June then.
right, so like any other advisory committee that we have, we expect to provide a work plan as well as what they've accomplished. I would expect that in June, the commitment was quarterly reporting of accomplishments, that at bare minimum, we receive a presentation or a report advising with current stats of their accomplishments.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, thank you. Councillor Keysbrink.
Madam Mayor, I need to declare a pecuniary interest for that portion, for the tourism office, only because our family business have brochures in the tourism office, so I need to refrain from participating in that portion of our vote. Thank you.
Noted, thank you. Anything else on the recommendations? Seeing none, all those in favor of the budget? Yeah. The recommendations, on page 2 of the agenda, and it's up on your screen. I've got motions. Can I, all those in favor? Against? Thank you. That motion is carried. And the confirming bylaw. You're looking confused, Councillor Keysbrink. Everything okay? Okay, good. Motion for the, and you're looking confused? Okay. Everybody realize we've just passed the budget? Okay, good. Confirming bylaw, please. Could I have a motion to confirm the proceedings? Councillor Brown, Councillor McDougall, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Thank you very much again to staff, all of staff. Appreciate all the efforts that have gone into this. And you can breathe a sigh of relief, Director Valentin, for when do the accountants come in to do our auditing?
End of April.
There you go. Okay. Move for adjournment. Do you have a question? Statement. Yes.
Could I just, could I make a statement with respect to this budget that we've just passed?
Yes.
Thank you. I'd just like to say that I really appreciate the work that has gone into this budget. There was a lot of deliberation on the part of all of us, because we want to see really careful let me just say this, the Bill 108 with More Homes, More Choice, because the Development Charges Act changes went into effect January 1st, 2020, and community benefits charges come into effect in a year, and because of the increased amount of work that's going to come on our finance department, whereas in the past people just submitted building permits and a check, and that's no more. Now we have to do calculations based on whether a site plan was made, whether a zoning bylaw amendment was made, interest charges calculated based on a building permit. Is there a 5-year period? Is there a 20-year period? All of that was done in order to help improve housing, but the net result for municipalities is an extra job for us to collect those charges and those community benefits charges. And in some instances, we're collecting them now over 20 years, whereas before it was just a check up front. And I can't imagine, because our finance department is incredibly efficient, now we have all of this new work, and we have to prepare not just for the development charges that went into effect in January, but now a year from now, the community benefits charge as well. So I just want to say that we are proud of our staff and the work that they're doing, and we are grateful for the opportunity that you gave us to contribute today. And we wish you well with all the questions that are still ahead of you to figure this all out. We do want more affordable housing, but it is going to be a financial jungle gym to go through. So we just want you to know that we see what you're dealing with in part, and we stand with you in that.
Thank you, Councillor Keysbrick. Very well said. And, you know, this budget allows us to increase our services, which is incredible. Doing it on 0.87, but realistically, it's 0.87. And great work is going to be done on roads and sidewalks. And it's very, very exciting. And thank you very much for all of the planning that went into this. So thank you. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Guido, seconded. Councillor Watton, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.